not adjust your sets. Do not adjust your clocks. You are not going mad. We are going live on a different day at a different time. And it's a very special show. And I'm really excited to have my guest. You can see her here smiling next to me. Let me tell you who she is. Who is this mystery woman? So, my guest today had an original career path practicing law before emigrating to Switzerland in 2005, where for 8 years she worked in business development and social media marketing for a large international law firm and a financial services company. It's embarrassing to sit there listening to your introduction.
Oh my God.
This gave her the impetus to start her own LinkedIn marketing and training company, Trevisan. Now, Trevisan works with entrepreneurs and small businesses and speakers. If you're a speaker listening in, I hope you are, needing online presence and business generation, as well as large international organizations needing social media maintenance. So as well as a CPD accredited online LinkedIn training course, which is great, right? CPD accredited, brilliant, well done. LinkedIn Mastery, she also delivers one-to-one and group LinkedIn training every week. Today, I am going to be quizzing her about all things LinkedIn. Please welcome Melanie Goodman.
Hi.
Yay! I need a round of applause, actually, don't I? I need to have that as a sound.
Canned clapping.
Canned clapping. And also welcome Tulia Lopez, who is here already listening in with her notepad. So, Melanie, it's wonderful to have you here because everyone knows I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. And of course, we're going out live on LinkedIn. So we're hoping that people will be tuning in to find out more. What are the mistakes you're currently seeing on LinkedIn that happen time and time again that we're making? What are we doing wrong?
I think the biggest mistake that I see at the moment is tagging too many people in posts, over tagging. And I don't think people realize that if more than 50% of the people that you tag in a post don't react to that post, so they don't press like or they don't comment on it, then LinkedIn actually penalizes the reach of that post. So often you'll find, you might find yourself tagged in a list of about 25 people on a post. But actually that person's actually damaging their reach, because if there's no comments on the post, LinkedIn are going to realize that it's basically spamming. What you can do if you are tagged on a post that you don't want to be tagged in, what people do is they would often tag people with large networks thinking, oh, well, if I tag 20 people with a big network, then my post is going to go out to thousands of people. But you can actually go to the post and you go to the top right of the post. There's 3 little dots and you can press remove mention. And that's how you can untag yourself from a spammy post. So that's one of the big mistakes on the sort of private side of LinkedIn. So in the direct messaging side, the biggest mistake that people make is connecting with somebody, and as they accept the connection request, they send a pitch or they send, they send details of their event, and there's not even a hi, how are you? Let me introduce myself. Literally just goes in. And I mean, I will often disconnect with people who do that because they're clearly not interested in building any sort of relationship, and they're probably not going to engage on my posts, etc. So those are probably the biggest.
Absolutely. I've experienced both of those. So I get tagged a lot because I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and I don't feel that I should have to comment on everybody's posts that I'm tagged in. So if I remove myself, though, does that also reduce the reach of the post even further because I've removed myself, or does it not change anything?
No, that won't harm the post as such. But I mean, if you haven't commented on it, just by the fact that you haven't commented on it, it's going to decrease.
It's going to do that. Okay, super. So, and then this whole pitch thing, you're absolutely right. I was talking about this to somebody the other day, and it's like proposing marriage on your first date, isn't it? It's like you've just met, but don't know each other, blind date, and you propose marriage. This is where you go in and pitch straight away. Seriously, build that relationship first.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you look at LinkedIn as like an ongoing networking event, you wouldn't walk into a room, hand over your business card, and then say, right, how much do you want to invest in my next venture? You just would never dream of doing that. You would chat, you'd find out a bit about what they do, a bit of background, maybe introduce them to somebody, and that's obviously a more natural way of networking, but you need to replicate that natural way of networking on your LinkedIn in the way that you, well, if you are scheduling sort of messages to go out as part of a lead generation strategy, then you need to do them in a very conversational, soft way and really add value to people with your messages, because that's the way that you'll get the value back, is by providing something to somebody else's network. So whether you send them a PDF that will give them some tips, or you might even have a look. Well, for me, I might have a look at someone's profile and make a suggestion for them. But I mean, you can replicate that in other ways, or ask them a question to show interest in what they're doing, or even ask how business is going in May, or just show some sort of interest. I mean, I think that the key words to avoid are when people send you a message and they say, "I hope all is well with you." It's so closed that they don't really want a response. It's not like saying, "How are you?" So I always send people a message and say, "How are you?" rather than "I hope all's well with you," because I actually want to elicit a response and initiate a conversation. So I think the wording of your LinkedIn messages is really key because most people actually want to get a return on their investment, whether that's time or money, of being on LinkedIn. But the way to do that is to be quite strategic in the messages that you send and the sort of wording that you use. So I'm quite into sort of the psychology behind sales psychology, as you can probably tell. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love what you said. Treat LinkedIn like an ongoing networking event. I've not heard that before. I really like that. That if you have that kind of mentality and mindset about it, that's brilliant. Brilliant. Well done. Love that.
Can steal that.
Well, no, I'll quote you on it. I should quote you on it. I'll say where it came from. And the other thing, you mentioned profile. So you would give somebody advice on profile. So this is an area you know a lot about. So we might as well pick your brain here. So all of us on LinkedIn have a lot of competition on LinkedIn. So I'm taking notes here, Melanie. What can I do and what can others do to make our profiles rank above our competitors?
Okay, so I would start from the top. The first thing that I do when I look at someone's profile is see if they have a setting on called people also viewed. And what that is when you go to somebody's profile, and you may or may not have ever noticed it, but down the right-hand side, there's a box that says, it's called people also viewed, but what it is, it's a list of other people who generally, there'll be a list of other people who do something very similar to yourself. So someone comes to my profile, if I had that switched on, LinkedIn would send them, would show them about 4 other LinkedIn coaches and LinkedIn marketing companies. So what you want to do is you want to go to your settings and privacy, and it's under the first filter is account. And then you scroll down, depending on whether you've got an updated version, I think it's 4 options down. It says people also viewed. And you just toggle that to off. And because basically you want to keep people on your profile. So you don't want them to go and look at anybody else's, so that brings me actually on to the next thing, is that when you are optimizing your profile, put your contact details, without making it look obvious, put them in as many places on your profile as you can, not just in the contact info tab. So you'll have the contact info tab when you fill out your profile, and you'll probably put in your website address and your telephone number, but also think about putting those details in your headline and in your about section. And another thing you can also do is, if you set up, some of you might be familiar with Calendly, or like a calendar link that people can book a call, you can put that in your about section as well. And that's now hyperlinked. So that's quite a new feature of LinkedIn just within the last few months. You might have noticed it before. If you put a link in, people had to copy and paste it into another tab in their browser. But now, whether you're on mobile or whether you're on desktop, you can add a link to your LinkedIn profile, and it's hyperlinked. But the idea is always that you want to make things as easy as possible. So people come to your profile, and if they can see your telephone number right at the top, or that your email address, they're much more likely to contact you than contact the next person.
Oh, that's
So
really interesting, because
yeah.
I thought, so, I mean, first of all, great, I've actually got that toggle off. So I'm glad about people also viewed. So I instinctively didn't want people to look at other people. But with regards to having the phone number and email, I always thought LinkedIn will want to keep people on the platform, and therefore they want you to connect and communicate there. But you're saying it's okay to put an email and a phone number. LinkedIn's not going to penalize your profile.
LinkedIn won't penalize your profile for putting your contact details in. It's important because you want to make things as easy as possible for people.
That's great. So I've got some to-dos listed here. I didn't know about the hyperlinks either, so that's really useful. Super. And I suppose really the safest place for you to put any external links would be on your about section and in your features section. You probably don't want to be doing that in any posts. Is that right?
I was just about to say when that does not work is if you are posting, you don't want to put external links in your post. So if you put one external link in, it will reduce the reach by, I think it's about 20% at the moment. But if you put more than that, it goes down quite significantly. So you really don't want to do that.
I think 20% is significant.
Well, it is significant. Yeah, it is significant. But it's not obviously disastrous. But it depends on sort of how important it is for you to have that link in there. The alternative to doing it, and this is what I try and do, is to post your post and then go in and edit in the link afterwards. So it basically sort of tricks the LinkedIn algorithm into thinking that there isn't an external link. But
sneaky. And you've got to remember to do it. You've got to remember to do it.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, you've got the post with no link, especially as if you've said, please click on the following link. You've got to go in straight away and put in that link before people see it. The only thing that I would say is that you have to be slightly wary that when you edit a post afterwards, LinkedIn can also penalize the reach slightly if you go in and edit. So if you see a slight typo, I would usually say, unless it's something really blatant that's really awful, I would wait a significant amount of time before going in and editing your post. So I don't know why LinkedIn penalizes you if you edit posts afterwards. So it's a bit of a toss-up. I mean, alternatively, you can put the link in the first comments, which is like the old way of doing it. You know, you post it and then you just say, look at the link in the comments and put it there, which is still what a lot of people do to avoid this being penalized for editing a post. So it's,
I had no idea that you would be penalized for editing. That doesn't make any sense to me, actually, because in a way, if you're editing it, you found a mistake, or you might be adding an update. So I would have thought LinkedIn would want, but I suppose they want you to post something new rather than edit something. I don't know. Who understands the algorithm, right?
Yeah, so exactly. They do that. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Chrome extension, Grammarly. So it checks my spelling before I press that post button to try and avoid. I mean, I even have it on my mobile now, but I mean, still, you can't help it occasionally.
Sometimes you miss a word out and Grammarly doesn't notice.
Or whatever.
Or it still makes sense, but it doesn't, if you know what I mean. It means something else. Done that before. Okay, that's interesting. So talking about content and talking about posting, what sort of content's resonating at the moment on LinkedIn? Are we all having to do videos, as that people were saying in the past, or is that not the case?
No, videos are no longer the sort of bestseller of LinkedIn.
Oh my God, how do you keep up?
So PDFs are going to be your goldmine of post reach.
PDFs?
PDFs, document posts, they do really well. Document posts do really, really well. And here's a little sneaky top tip here, is that if you wanted to post images, and say you want to post 4 images and sort of have them sliding across, save them as a PDF. So I don't know, sometimes I don't know if people here will use Canva, which is like a design tool, whereas normally people just download them as images. Resave your file as a PDF. So the person looking at it won't see any difference. It will just look like a slider of images, but LinkedIn will think it's a document post, and so it will push it out much further than a post with just multiple images attached. So
that's document so post, sneaky. Sneaky. I'm going to call you Melanie Sneaky Goodman.
Yeah, I love finding loopholes in the LinkedIn system. So, so document posts do really, really well. Followed by polls, but they'd sort of become a bit like sweets, that people were just doing them hundreds of polls, because you knew if you do a poll, it's going to get 500 views in like the first 25 minutes. So I would, and people get a bit annoyed as well. But so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been finding a lot less polls coming up in my feed. And I think it's because LinkedIn have stopped pushing them out so much, because people were just completely overusing them. But they're often a great way to do some market research. And you can gain, like, apart from obviously doing a poll, sort of, you know, like, do you prefer like Twix or Snickers or whatever, which will get lots.
There are other brands available.
Yeah, which will get there, which will, like, you'll get probably loads of votes on it, but it actually won't give you any useful information. But you can use it much more strategically to find out who would be interested in using your services, or, you know, where people's pain points are. Because if you ask a question like, you know, do you struggle with XYZ, and then you've got a list of 25 people who've answered yes to that question, you know, off you go and start connecting with them and saying, maybe, I might be able to help you in this way, or, you know, you might find this useful, or so. Use the polls strategically, but yeah, definitely. And text posts are key. Like, so long text posts are doing well at the moment. Actually, you've probably seen they're almost like article length, but they are doing well because they increase the character limit on posts. So.
And so a long text post would be over how many words, would you say? Or over or how many characters? Because it's 3,000 characters, isn't it, now?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would call it a long post, probably in character term. Well, probably, so in word terms, probably a couple of hundred words would be a long post. As opposed to, you don't want to quite go into like article type.
Yeah, because that should go as an article.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You start to lose people. But yeah, I mean, and Brett, you know, was try and break up your posts with changing the font up, you know, because you can copy and paste fonts from off LinkedIn. Because although you can't alter the text within LinkedIn, you know, it's just their standard text font. But you can copy and paste from outside LinkedIn and copy it in, and, you know, use arrows and bullet points, etc., just to break it up, bold type, and always try and start the post with something obviously catchy that people, or a question, something that people are going to make people press that sort of see more.
Brilliant. I didn't know you could do the cut and paste for the fonts things. Really good. And with regards to polls, I'll tell you what I find interesting. There are polls that I do answer because I want to know what people have said. Yeah. And what's lovely is that when you vote on a poll, you can immediately see where, you know, because I want to see what are people thinking about this. So sometimes I find a poll and I think, I want to know what people are thinking about this. And then that's quite revealing, and think, am I in the mainstream? Am I not? So sometimes I do that just for fun on other people's. And it's easy to do, isn't it? You just click and you get an answer. So
that sort of strategy, actually, you can follow through to, I don't know whether you use LinkedIn groups or how many people here use LinkedIn groups. But if you join a LinkedIn group, so if you join a LinkedIn group, just talking about messaging people with a sort of similar interest, you can, once you've been a member of that group for 5 days, you can actually message anybody in that group who you have, even if you're not connected to them. So you don't actually have to waste your invitations, but you can still send someone a message. And the same with on events, LinkedIn events. You could, if you join a LinkedIn event, so even if you say you're attending, even if you can't actually attend, you can then see and message other attendees. So I'm not suggesting that you poach other people's clients or anything like that, but it is quite useful to see who's attending. And
you definitely, the new name, you're the sneaky and the loophole LinkedIn expert. Fantastic.
You can sort of gain some, let's call it competitor insights, and you can see what other people are doing. But it's more interesting to see what people are interested in. So you can see the sorts of people. So if you look at other people's events, you can see the sort of titles that people are interested in. So what they want to hear about and what they actually want to attend, as opposed to even looking at ones that haven't got many attendees, and that will sort of tell you, well, actually people aren't really interested in that. So you know, it's quite important to sort of bit of social listening and see what other people are doing.
Excellent, excellent. So of course, when it comes to posting, it's all about getting some engagement, getting some conversation going, building relationships. It all adds to it. So what sort of things should you be writing on your posts or in your messages, maybe, to elicit some positive responses? So either of the two. I don't mind which one you focus on. Maybe you could cover both.
Yeah, I was going to say slightly different. So usually adding questions into posts helps actually gain a reaction. Obviously, if you want to say something controversial, that normally does as well. I try and stay away from things that are controversial, but each to his own. There's some people who that's what they've built their, you know, that's what they've sort of not built their network on, but you know, that they work on that premise that they'll post something preposterous or that sort of excites people and that they will react to it. So those sort of using hashtags is a good way to get your posts out to people who aren't in your network. So I do the ideal amount of hashtags to use is between 3 and 5. So I'd normally suggest that you have one that's quite a niche hashtag. So niche towards your sort of ideal client, but then go for some like hashtag, if it's relevant, like hashtag entrepreneurship or hashtag investing or finances if it's relevant, or strategy, ones that have got millions of followers, because they're more likely, then your post is more likely to be seen and be pushed out by LinkedIn. So therefore you're likely to get more reactions. But really the key to actually growing the amount of engagement on your post is actually engaging on other people's. So I mean, I spend I mean, obviously it's my job, but I would say if you can, try and spend 20 minutes a day just looking down and engaging on other people's posts. And that's what's one of the advantages. We just before this show, we were just chatting briefly about the advantages, disadvantages of paying for the premium or the Sales Navigator LinkedIn account. And I would say that one of the advantages of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is actually the one above premium, so it's called Sales Navigator Core. So if you're really serious about your LinkedIn and sort of your LinkedIn business generation, consider upgrading to LinkedIn Sales Navigator Core. And by the way, I'm not affiliated with LinkedIn. I'm not getting paid by them. But one of the most useful features for me is that I can go on there in the morning and it gives me a really targeted news feed. So your usual news feed in LinkedIn, more than likely it's going to be filled with a lot of posts that you're not interested in. So, you know, people in your network you haven't spoken to, or on subjects that you're not interested in. But if you've got LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can save people as interesting people or leads, and LinkedIn will then alert you every day when those people post. So you can be a bit more strategic in how you spend your time on LinkedIn and who you're actually and whose posts you're actually engaging with. So, you know, rather than having to scroll through my news feed, I can go onto Sales Navigator and just quickly see a post, react, comment with something. I try and comment with something useful or insightful rather than good post, you know, or something that might make people click on my profile. And I'm just going to sort of quickly scoot back to right at the beginning when we talked about how to sort of set up your profile and so that you rank higher. One of the key things that I would suggest is that in your headline, the first part of your headline should say the result that people get from working with you. Because when you comment on a post, they're going to see the first 50 characters of your headline next to your name. So if you've just written founder or CEO or coach, it's not really going to differentiate you and people aren't really going to click on it. But if you've already said, like, I mean, you can just go and see mine as an example. So I'm looking.
Oh,
yeah, so the first thing that I've got is accelerating the visibility. So people know as they see me, how I can help them. And that's my advice, is that most people don't have it that way around. They start with their role. So whether they're CEO, managing director.
So true.
But I wouldn't do that. I would change it round, turn it on its head, and start with the result that people get from working with you.
I've got a to-do list here. I'm going to come back to Tulia's question in a moment, because I've got a quick point I wanted to make. if you haven't got Sales Navigator, of course, you can just click the bell on people's profiles, can't you? And be
Yes, you
alerted
can.
in your notifications. So that's what I tend to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using it I find it really effective, the bell, actually. Other people seem to say it's completely useless, and like the groups that I'm in, and I've had sort of chats to people about it, and they don't find it effective and say it's useless, and they still don't see the post. However, I'm finding it pretty good, actually, to try and curate my feed so that I see more posts from the people that I'm interested in. Really.
Absolutely. It's working for me. I do need to go into my notifications and I see them in there. And then the other question I was going to ask you, gosh, I hope I haven't forgotten it now. Yes, here's the question. So you were saying about engaging with people. Now, should you engage with people that have, I imagine people that have thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers aren't probably going to then respond to you and engage back, surely. So do you have to be strategic about who you choose to engage with on their posts?
Well, I am. I mean, if someone's already got 400 comments on their post, I'm probably unlikely to. I'll probably like it and react to it, but I'm probably unlikely. It depends what the post is on. If it's something that I think that I can add value to, so I can say something that hasn't been said before, then I will probably engage on it. Or if it's something that I could showcase my expertise on, then I will. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I actually prefer to engage on people's posts. Plus, people appreciate them a lot more. So if you're engaging on someone's post and they haven't got any reactions yet, then they're going to be a lot more appreciative of you trying to initiate some sort of conversation. And to be honest, I'm strategic about whose posts that there's three types of posts that I will comment on. There's people who they engage on mine, so it's reciprocal, it's give and take, and you want to build relationships. And I'm actually going to do a post on it. So some people steer away from ever engaging with competitors on LinkedIn, whether that's by having them in their network or engaging on their posts. But I mean, I'm connected to other LinkedIn trainers, and one of them actually passed me a client a couple of weeks ago because he wanted something that she didn't do exactly, she doesn't do like LinkedIn Sales Navigator training, and she doesn't do LinkedIn management. So she passed me, she passed him on to me, and he's now engaged as a client, ongoing, and and I'm happy to pass someone back to her if someone comes to me and is more suitable. She's now niched down actually to help women over 50. So if someone in that bracket comes to me, I'm happy to pass them to her. And so I think you have to be quite open-minded about who you engage with. It can be really useful as well. Everyone has their USP, and if yours is strong enough and you've made that clear enough, people will still will still choose you over somebody else. So I think just be strong in your personal brand.
Absolutely. Let's come back to Tulia's question. So she says, I would like to know if groups are worth having in LinkedIn. Are they good community builders? Thanks in advance. She's very polite.
Really good question. No, they're not very good community builders. But that said, I share my posts in LinkedIn groups every single morning. And I'll tell you why. Because if you consistently do it, they will come up. They will sometimes come up in people's feeds if they're members of that group. I do. So I see the same few people who do support my posts in groups. But it's more sort of for visibility, that if you consistently post, people will get to know you. So some of the smaller groups are better for not getting your post lost in, like, if you say there's one called the Finance Club and there's like nearly 1 million people in it, so your posts basically get lost, because there's such a fast moving traffic in there. But if you choose smaller groups and more niche groups, they're certainly useful. So for example, and I would say join groups that are where your ideal clients are. Don't join groups of competitors. Like, for example, I'm not in social media marketing groups because I basically don't want to post myself in a group of competitors, whereas I am in groups for where there's legal advisors, where there's financial advisors, where there's coaches, recruitment people, so basically people who I'm likely to work with. And I have to say, I mean, I don't actually spend time myself commenting on group posts, but so a bit selfishly, I have to say, I do post more than I engage in groups. But that said, and I mean, I'm a member of another group that is actually a paid group here on LinkedIn. So people have started to monetize groups, and that's actually worthwhile. So I think you need to go into a group and see how much value is actually there. See what if it's full of people just posting promotional posts, you might as well just post yours but don't waste your time engaging. But see, this particular group I do engage in because it's actually full of other LinkedIn geeks like myself. So it's actually worth engaging in. You learn, you can learn from other people in the group. So it really depends on the quality of the group. So I would say they're more useful though for posting in than for engaging in. So, I mean, people who are generally want to build a community tend to build them off LinkedIn. So they'll build them like on Facebook, although, Facebook is sort of seems to be on the decline. Their groups are still quite useful for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or on another platform. And I use Mighty Networks, which is a good community platform for building communities.
Super. I've got a couple more questions. Have you got time, Melanie? Because I know I'm taking a lot of, because there's so much value here you've given. Okay, so a couple more questions, very quick ones for you. Are company pages important?
They're increasingly important because LinkedIn are increasingly adding new features to them. So although I'm waiting patiently for my lead generation form, if you've got a company page, have a look whether it's probably sent you a little light bulb notification when you go to the page. But if not, it will be under the tab that says analytics. If you go to the drop down, if you've got the new feature, it will say I think it says lead generation. And you can add a lead generation form, which is brilliant. So basically you can get people to put in their contact details and you can send them off. So, you can say, to learn more, you can add a whole form. So that's one new feature that they've added. There's LinkedIn events. So if you use your company page to set up a LinkedIn event, you can download the details of the people who say they're attending, whereas if you do that from a personal page, you can't. The only flip side,
nugget.
It is, but the only flip side I would say is that less people click that they're attending when a company invites them as to when a person does.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So does that mean then we now have to be posting on our company pages as well as our profiles?
Yeah. I mean, I've always done that as a matter of course, that I've posted sort of almost the same thing so that it makes sense on both pages, because there's always far more engagement on a personal profile than a company page still. But they're becoming increasingly important. And they're one of the other reasons they're important is because now they're ranked for like the last year or so. They've been ranked on Google. So whereas before, if you typed in a name, the first thing that would come up is your website address and your company page wouldn't even show. But now LinkedIn company pages are actually indexed on Google as well. So they're certainly worth having for credibility.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm adding questions here. But so with regards to, because you're saying you're putting the same content, I imagine you're changing it slightly because I imagine LinkedIn won't want you to put exactly the same on your profile and on your company page.
Yeah, I mean, people do. The one thing that I would say is the absolute do not do is don't post it on your company page and then underneath it, don't press the share button and share it to your personal page. It will just die a death because LinkedIn don't like shared content. So you
really? So if you want to share content from somebody that you're following, you shouldn't do that then?
You should do it, but the way to do it is not to press the share button, but is to go to the post, and in the top right of the post, there's 3 little dots. Take the link, copy it, paste it into a new post. LinkedIn see that as fresh content rather than shared content.
Okay.
Which is quite strange. I mean, they give you a share button, but actually it's the kiss of death if you press the share button on your post.
Oh, that's bonkers. That's bonkers. Okay, I'm just writing that down too. Right, my final question. Oh my God, I could speak to you all day long. You're just a font of knowledge here. And actually, anybody who's listening, sign up to Melanie's newsletter. It's one of the few newsletters that I subscribe to that I have never unsubscribed from, because every time there is gold in the writing. There is gold.
Thank you.
Do you need a paid account?
You don't need a paid account, and I think whether you have a paid account depends on the volume of what you're of your activity on LinkedIn and what you're using it for. If you're literally using it as a social networking site to keep in contact with people, then no, it's fine. Just go for the free account. If you are searching for particular people and you're making lists of those people to go forward to start messaging and engaging with, then I would suggest having a paid account. From a practical reason, if you look at too many profiles in one day, you will get something pop up that says you've reached the commercial use limit, which basically is LinkedIn's way of saying, right, you're now not using this as a social platform. You're obviously using it for business. We want you to pay. So that will happen if you look at too many profiles. And LinkedIn, if you do a search on LinkedIn, so you put a keyword into the top, and then you have a choice of whether you can scroll down for people, jobs, groups, events. If you change just a small part of that search, so you add in another filter. So say you've filtered down to people, and then you want to add in actually only CEOs, LinkedIn will see that as another search. So the more searches that you do, that's when you'll hit your commercial use limit.
Right.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you upgrade, you get more filters when you search for people. So, for example, if you wanted to search for people based in a certain location with 10 years of experience who've been in the same role for 4 years, and they used to work in a particular company, you would need an upgraded account to get all those additional features. Or, for example, you can. Another really great feature is if you upgrade to the Sales Navigator, is that we were talking about groups, is that, for example, you can filter down the people who are in a group. So you could look for just the CEOs in a certain industry who are a member of a certain group. And then you can reach out to them and say, hi, we're both members of XYZ group. I predominantly support CEOs in X sector with whatever, and it's much more likely to resonate. So if you want to do really detailed filtered searches for people, which I'm not going to go down the whole sort of Boolean search route because that's a whole different detailed searches training, but then I would suggest that you upgrade to a premium account. That also gives you, the premium accounts give you the option to send messages as well, limited amounts, but you can send messages to people you're not connected to. So you don't, even if they haven't accepted or an invitation request, you can send emails to them.
Fantastic. As Melanie, there's so many more questions that people will be having. There'll be people desperate to know what the commercial use limit is. We're not going to tell them. If they want to know, they need to get in touch with you, and they can either follow you on LinkedIn. I don't know if you're accepting connection requests or not.
Yeah,
are you? You are.
Yeah,
fantastic. But we also have your email address, which is melaniegoodman@trevisan.consulting. Melanie, you have been wonderful. Thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
I have. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm going to play us out with some closing music. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Don't go away, Melanie.